Across vast stretches of farmland, an unexpected force is reshaping the American landscape. Beneath the quiet of night, an invasive species moves with precision, leaving behind billions of dollars in damage each year. They're not insects or storms, but highly intelligent, fast-reproducing animals that have learned to outsmart nearly every attempt to contain them. Scientists call it one of the fastest-growing ecological challenges in modern history. What makes these creatures so resilient, and can humans ever regain control of the land they've claimed? Under the fading light of dusk, vast farmlands across the southern plains face a growing and costly invasion. The culprits aren't droughts, insects, or storms. They're wild hogs, a species that has quietly become one of the most destructive forces in modern agriculture. Once limited to small, isolated pockets of wilderness, these animals have now expanded across nearly every corner of the United States. They've adapted to farmland, forests, wetlands, and suburbs alike, creating a crisis that costs the nation billions each year. The numbers are staggering. Agricultural agencies estimate that feral hogs now cause over $2.5 billion in damages annually. They rip through fields of corn, rice, and wheat with surprising speed, leaving behind corroded soil and uprooted crops. Irrigation lines are shredded, fences destroyed, and even livestock feed stores raided. When they move through, the land looks as though it's been plowed by machines. But unlike machinery, this damage comes without warning and almost always at night. These animals are built for survival. Originating from a mix of domestic pigs and imported wild boar, their hybrid lineage makes them unusually intelligent and incredibly hardy. Their sense of smell can detect food buried several feet underground, and their hearing is acute enough to detect a human approaching from hundreds of yards away. Once they sense danger, they scatter into the dark with remarkable coordination, vanishing before anyone can react. What makes the crisis worse is how rapidly they reproduce. A single sow can produce 2 or 3 litters a year, with each litter averaging half a dozen piglets. Given ideal conditions, a small group can expand into a herd of hundreds within just a few years. In many regions, wildlife officials describe it as an unstoppable growth cycle, a biological chain reaction that outpaces nearly every traditional method of control. For farmers, the problem has escalated beyond what they can handle alone. Across the southern states, large-scale control operations have become a necessity. Teams equipped with thermal imaging scopes and GPS tracking devices conduct night patrols over massive tracts of farmland. Some use drones fitted with heat sensors to locate herds in real time, while others rely on fixed-wing aircraft or helicopters to guide ground teams toward the invaders. Each operation requires precision, coordination, and patience, because one missed group can undo months of effort. Government agencies have also stepped in. Through national programs designed to reduce feral swine damage, millions of dollars are allocated every year for research, containment, and population management. These efforts include advanced trapping systems, targeted sterilization trials, and partnerships with local farmers to improve reporting and prevention. Yet despite the heavy investment, officials admit that complete eradication remains far out of reach. The animals are simply too adaptable, too intelligent, and too widespread in states like Oklahoma and Arkansas. Experts describe the wild hog problem as an ecological tug of war. On one side, human ingenuity and agricultural necessity. On the other, an animal that has evolved into one of the toughest survivors on the continent. Their hides are thick enough to resist many small-caliber rounds, and their tusks, used mainly for foraging, can still cause serious injury if cornered. Yet beyond their reputation as destructive pests, biologists also see a species that has mastered adaptation in almost every environment. From frozen plains to humid swamps, these creatures thrive where most others fail. wildlife scientists are studying their behavior closely. Using tracking collars and motion sensor cameras, they've learned that feral hogs often move in tightly coordinated groups called sounders. Each group follows a dominant female, communicating through a range of grunts, squeals, and low-frequency vibrations. When threatened, they can disperse and regroup miles away within hours. This ability to adapt and reorganize makes them incredibly difficult to contain. The ecological consequences stretch far beyond damaged crops. Feral hogs dig deep trenches while foraging for roots and insects, which disrupts soil balance and promotes erosion. They contaminate water sources with bacteria and parasites, affecting not just farms but also wildlife habitats. Ground nesting birds, reptiles, and amphibians are especially vulnerable, as entire nests are often destroyed during feeding. What began as a problem for farmers has quietly grown into a national environmental challenge. Efforts to manage the crisis have sparked innovation. Some wildlife engineers have developed massive corral traps that can automatically close only when an entire herd is inside. Others are experimenting with remote-triggered gates controlled through mobile devices. These technologies are designed to outsmart a species that seems to learn from every failed attempt. Hunters who've worked in the field for years say that once a hog experiences a trap, it will never fall for the same setup again. Still, not every strategy involves removal. In certain areas, wildlife managers are testing habitat modifications to make farmland less attractive. This includes altering crop rotation schedules, fencing off key water sources, and minimizing leftover grain after harvest. While these steps can reduce short-term activity, most experts agree they're only part of a much larger puzzle. The scale of the problem forces communities to work together. Farmers share surveillance data with neighboring landowners. State biologists coordinate with local governments, and volunteer teams assist in monitoring rural zones. What unites them is a single goal: to protect the stability of America's agricultural backbone. Every bushel of grain saved, every field restored, and every fence rebuilt represents progress in a struggle that shows no sign of slowing down. At its core, this isn't a story about hunting, it's a story about preservation. The people confronting this issue aren't driven by sport or competition, but by necessity. Their livelihoods depend on restoring balance to an ecosystem that is tilted dangerously off course. Without intervention, experts warn that feral hog populations could soon exceed 40 million nationwide, spreading into new states every year. And yet, amid the constant battle, there's an undeniable respect for the resilience of the species itself. To survive in harsh climates, evade advanced technology, and thrive in human-dominated environments requires extraordinary instinct. It's this blend of intelligence and toughness that has earned the animal both infamy and fascination among researchers across the country, from rolling farmland to dense river valleys. The same challenge unfolds each night, a test of endurance between nature's survivors and those determined to protect the land. Whether through science, strategy, or sheer persistence, the fight continues. And while the outcome remains uncertain, one fact is clear: the balance between agriculture and wildlife will depend not on victory, but on coexistence shaped by understanding, innovation, and relentless effort. This is the unseen frontier of modern agriculture, a quiet, ongoing conflict that defines how humans and wildlife share the same ground. It's a story not of domination, but of endurance, adaptation, and the complex ties that bind survival to the soil itself.